booking a request via Concur. So a request is where a consultant assistance is required, and there is a booking fee that is charged to the business unit and the PG. If it's a straightforward travel, then you can use the travel option, and the booking fee is much less and it's charged to administration rather than the BUPG. So request is for consultant assisted travel, and you can go into the request tab, or you can just commence your request from this home page. So start a request, new, and start a request. So all the fields with the red mark are all compulsory fields. This is the request header that we're completing. And I am doing a straightforward booking. Just to demonstrate the request. Enter the number of private days if there are any. The travel service provider you can select from the drop-down menu. The travel purpose, select from the drop-down menu as well. You can enter an explanation for the trip. These are the risk questions that are mandatory, that need to be completed. In this case, it's no high risk, keeping it straightforward. So once we've completed the request header, we then move to the segments tab. We'll complete the details pertaining to the segment, that is the air, rail, car or hotel. So in this instance, we are selecting air. From and to. Click on Save. And at this point, we want to submit this request to the travel agent. They in turn will send back a proposal with 3 separate options, and then we can continue. So this is the first stage, if you like, of completing a request. So we've entered the request header with the details, answering the insurance and risk questions, and then the segment section, which is the car, hotel, rail and air. So we are submitting this now to the agent, and in time they will then return the information, the proposal, which we'll then select. So that's the first stage completed. Once the request has been submitted to the travel agent, in Concur you will then find the request. So by going into request, we can actually search for the request, or if you scroll down you can actually find it. We're going to search for the request via the ID. So by entering the search criteria, it is case sensitive. So we're entering the request ID, click on go, and there is the request, and you can see the status is sent back to employee. So that means that the proposal is sitting in there waiting. To find the proposal, click on segments, and on the right hand side of the screen you can see the agency proposal button. Click on that,
And what you have here is one proposal from one agent, but with 3 options. So there's options 1, 2, and 3, proposal 1, 2, and 3. The red field indicate that there's a change, that it's different to the others, to what you've requested. And you'll notice that the differences in the 3 would be the time, the date, the price, and the airline, possibly the airline. Where you have a blank field in the proposal, it indicates that it's the same as the other proposals. In other words, the same as the column fields in the column. So the red indicates there's a difference, and the blank indicates that it's the same. So from here you would have a look and see which you prefer, and then select the proposal that you require. So when you click on select, it will pre-fill the expense information into the expense field. So the costs, in other words, will pre-fill. So from the expense tab, you are required to allocate the expenses, and you also need to add any expenses that relate to this trip. So here we are adding expenses. So if you add an expense and save it, and then you allocate at the end. So you then click on the expense. Once you've added the expenses, click on the expense you wish to allocate, and then complete the allocation screen. So here it's funded by UWA. Select the business unit. You can search at this point, or you can scroll down and select. So this is selecting the PG. We're now selecting the account category and the account code. Click on save once you've allocated the first expense, and then you can allocate the remainder of the expenses. So click on the expense and then click on allocate selected expenses. Funded by UWA. Select the business unit. And the project grant code. The account category. And the account code. This section is important. It cannot be submitted unless the expenses are allocated. So here we're selecting the final expense to allocate. Once the allocation is complete and the request is submitted to the agent, this section cannot be changed or modified. So it's very important that this is correct when you are allocating, because it cannot be changed or modified. So I would suggest that you perhaps obtain this information, if you're not sure, prior to actually making the booking. So once it's complete, you submit, and this will go back to the agent so that they can prepare the tickets and book the necessary information. So you can see here the status has changed for this request. So once the booking has been made, the tickets issued by the travel agent, you can actually go to your up and coming trips and click on the request and have a look at the itinerary. And this completes this section.